You'll be my forever friend. This love will never end. No, nothing can come between us. No, never with you.
The power of a dad in a child's life is unmatched. That quote is by Justin Ricklefs. I hope I pronounced that right. Justin Ricklefs. The power of a dad in a child's life is unmatched. And again, I think one of the reasons why I wanted to highlight some of these quotes with you guys tonight is because we have been having extensive conversations about, whether it's the new look and journey of single motherhood and people, women of a certain status and professionalism, I guess I will say, choosing to go into single motherhood to make sure that their fertility windows don't expire. There's a lot of conversation in when, they're doing that single motherhood, the look is different now, right? It's not this, at least in their argument, it's on a financial end, right? It's not this woman who is struggling to make ends meet. It's not, they feel like they have the resources to be able to do this, but that's only one angle. And honestly, of course, we all know we have to be able to acquire a certain amount of finances to take care of our children. But that is only one small angle, right, of parenting and of engaging with your child and meeting the needs of a child. And there's really no way to replace the two fundamental people that, came together to create this, human being, this other human being. So those are quotes that I wanted to share with you guys. Let me know if any of them kind of resonated with you. And, let me know your thoughts. Maybe you don't believe some of them. That's fine. We can leave space and room for that as well. And I know that today is not easy for many of those who might have lost their fathers, like me, who fathers might not be in their life. Maybe you have an estranged relationship with your father, distant one. It's not easy, right? It's not easy, but my prayer is that you would be the type of individual, or at least be able to have the opportunity that was given to me, someone who lost their father at a very young age, to be able to put God's, presence in his spirit and let him be the ultimate father figure, right? Because God is the father of all fathers, and I think in my head, one of those, I guess that would be the quote. And just to kind of segue into answering the question that I posed to you guys while I'm waiting to see if someone else answers, that is the quote that stands out to me. And that is the quote that kind of offered me, freedom, really, in my mind and my being and in my heart, to be able to understand that my father, even though he can't physically be here, God is the father of all fathers. So I can tap into, whether you want to call it the masculine presence, the masculine authority that I would prayerfully would have hoped would have come down the pipeline of my father to me, and be able to gain that through my relationship with God. And I think for me, once I realized that, then I realized that God can put anybody, right, any male presence who he felt would reflect his character to me, and they would be able to offer some things that, because due to my father passing away, not being able to give me some of those things that I would be, that I was missing. And so because of that, I could be able to identify all of the other angels that God presented, to me. So I pray that if you haven't experienced that yet, if you haven't experienced someone who you feel is someone who is a godly father figure to you, or a male presence in your life that you can glean from, that can impact your life positively, that I pray from this moment on that you'll be able to, one, have your eyes open, four, to be able to identify that person and be able to take the opportunity when it presents itself. And I pray that God bring those people in your life, so that you can feel their presence, and their presence can offer you, I guess, a fatherly essence or presence in your life. And, so that I think that's one of the quotes that really, really stood out to me. Like I said, that helped me to not necessarily be so attached to wanting my father to physically be here, to be able to, develop me, cultivate me, let me learn about men and things like that. And I think also certain examples that are coming to my mind. There was a wonderful father figure for me. He basically was a older man. We used to call him Brother Acreage. My grandmother would send my sister and I to like a little small Caribbean church. Very small Caribbean church. It was like a storefront church. If anybody have ever heard of that, it wasn't like a mega church. Didn't have their own building. They do now, but they didn't at the time for many years. And oftentimes the church would just be held like literally in a small section in another building that they would rent out. And there was a gentleman called Brother Acres. So my grandmother would send us, but she wouldn't go. And the memory that is coming to me now that is really impactful that I want to share with you guys, that I really now have so much more honor for, because the church literally, I could walk there, probably walking from my household. It was literally like around the corner, guys. Like literally I could come out of, I lived in, I don't know, like a complex of houses. And basically, if you came out the house, you literally walk down the road and you'd make like a left and the church was right there, right? So, sometimes my sister and I would walk. And I remember as we started going to the church, he was like an elder in the church and his name was Brother Acreage. And he would start picking us up. He would start picking us up to go to the church in his car. And I remember sometimes I would think like, why? Like, why is he coming to pick us up? It's like literally like maybe 3 to 5 minute walk, if that, to go there. But it would probably take him longer, right, to drive to my house because there was like a light, in between. And I didn't know where he would have to come from to travel to the church. So I'm assuming maybe he would even have to come further than where I lived. But he would literally come from his house and then pick us up and like religiously and consistently take us to church. And in my mind, it just blew me. And I remember it blew my mind. Every time he picked us up, what I would look forward to, he'd have all like these mints. Like the little peppermints that are in the clear paper. And he'd give it to us. And that was like, a little highlight of a little candy for the day. And he would literally, take us back home. And now that I'm older, and God bless his soul, he's passed on. But I realize that him wanting to pick us up every time to make sure that we were going to church was, one, he wanted to encourage and keep us motivated to continue to keep going to church, right? That was number one. And then two, I realized that when he would come and pick us up, that was his way of protecting us, right? Me in my simple mind back then, as a child, and you would think I would know because I did experience some things, unfortunately, at a young age that children really shouldn't experience, meaning knowing that there are predators around. But I guess I didn't think of it in that way because thankfully my grandmother stepped in to raise us and take care of us. And I felt like the neighborhood and the community that she brought us in was a good community, right? I didn't feel, at least at that age, what do I know, as a child, but in my feeling and the energy, and I probably it was in comparison from things that I had already experienced. So it was very light compared to that. So my guard wasn't as up in that community. But for him, I think he understood that two young girls who don't have their father, right? Because both my sister and I didn't grow up with our fathers. And then on top of that, we don't have also our mother. And our grandmother, even though me and my little self, because she was so strong, I didn't know that she was taking us in, and she was literally in her elderly age, right? She was in her 50s, taking care of us, you know, taking care of us. And so he knew that we needed protection. He knew that these two young girls, even though they're walking from their home and it's a like 3 minute, 5 minute walk, anything can happen in between that walk, right? And so now that I'm older, I really honor it so much because he would do it consistently. And that was his way of not only providing support for my grandmother, providing support and protection for us, but he understood, and he didn't feel like it was going out of his way or would take anything from him to protect us in that way. So now me being, older, I honor that. I really honor that. And it reminds me of one of the quotes that I put out to you guys today, that Sigmund Freud said that there is no stronger need, right, than a father's protection of a child. And so that's one of my probably most memorable experiences of a father figure in my life.